Good morning and namaste to all of you. Let's start the class with some prayers. Om Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwaraha, Guru Sakshat Parbrahma, Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Om Bhu Bhuvaswaha, Tatsavitra Varenayam, Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi, Diyo Yo Nah Prachodayat, Asto Ma Satgamya, Tamso Ma Jyotirgamya, Mrityorma Amritam Gamya. ओम सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सवीर्यं कर्वावहि तेजस्वी नावधीतमस्तु मा विद्वेषावहि ओम शांति 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 ओम. So in our Thursday's class we are studying Prashnopanishad, and the reason it's called Prashnopanishads. Prashn means question. So these young students, they came to this Rishi Piplad because they had some questions. So we are on first question, and this question is being asked by Kabandhi. That's the name of that Kumar, Kabandhi. And he wants to know, how did this creation happen? Okay. All the creatures which we see, whether they are the plants or the animals or the reptiles or human beings, where did they come from? So when he says creatures, that means all this creation. So we saw that how he asked, and then rest of this chapter 1, Rishi Piplad is answering this question, and we are on verse number 5. Adityoho hava pranoho reirev chandrama reirvaha etat sarvam yat murtam cha amurtam cha tasmat murtirev rei. In the previous verses he said there are two things: matter and energy. Then he said energy is the sun and the matter is the moon. And then he started explaining how did this happen. So now again he's saying Aditya, the sun. Ha way, surely. Pranaha, energy. Chandrama, the moon. Ev means verily. Rai, matter. Va means or. Yat means what. Murtam, the form. Murti, like a grossness. Yat means what? Cha means and. Amurtam, formless, like subtle. Etat, these. Sarvam, all. Vai, verily. Rai, matter. Tasmat, therefore. Murati, form. Ev means indeed, Rai means matter. So Rishi Piplad is saying the sun is verily life, and the moon is the matter. All that have form and all that is formless is matter. And therefore, form is indeed matter. Okay. So matter and energy, the way we look at it, ordinarily we talk about it in the material sciences. This is not a material science we are talking about. It is a philosophy. So we got to understand it a little differently. So when philosophically we view these terms, Pran and Rai, are definitely subtler and deeper and more comprehensive than matter and energy, as the scientists talk about. Okay. So Pran means energy which makes matter exist. Pran is the one which gives the vibrancy and the vitality to the matter. So if the sun is the source of all the energy and life, we know that moon is a dead planet. It only reflects at night when we see beautiful moon shining, it's only reflecting the sun's light. We are all familiar with that. So that's why Rishi has chosen this analogy. Sun as the life and the moon as the matter. Without dynamism of the sun, this energy from the moon, we can't even see the vitality or the shine. So Ray is nothing other than the moon. So the Rishi is explaining here that matter does not mean only those who have form, because he uses the word formless also. Form as well as formless. What is formless? If you look at it personally, subjectively, what is formless in us? Formless is our thoughts, our ideas. If we just pay attention to it, even the form, like the thoughts and the ideas and the imagination, is nothing but matter. So that's why he said form as well as formless. And if you don't believe it, try to fast for a longer period of time. Our rishis, they talk about, they say if you fast for 41 days, you will see that your thoughts will, there won't be any thoughts. That's why the yogis and the rishis, they eat less. And whatever they eat without hurting anything or anybody. And in the simpler way they eat. They say when the food is in front of you, all the ingredients you should know. They should be seen to you. What did you put in there? So all kinds of chemicals, preservatives, they just create more thoughts in us. And these too many thoughts, they create the agitation also. So rishis, they are perfectly correct when they declare in their definition that matter is a form as well as formless. Okay, so, and form is indeed matter. Inner world of our mind and intellect, and there are a lot of feelings, a lot of thoughts, ideas. Those are all product of our own impressions and how the impressions were created because of the world of forms outside. You saw something and that impression got created. So the mind and intellect created a sustained, and it is a sustained also now because of the world of objects. It's nothing but the form. So forms constitute matter, and the formless world is controlled, regulated, sustained, and governed by the outer world of forms. So the formless in our inner world is nothing other than the outer form. Okay, so that's why his forms constitute matter. Let me repeat it again. The formless world is controlled, regulated, sustained, and governed by the outer world of forms. Therefore, the formless in our inner world, okay, so the thoughts and the ideas, imaginations. So the formless in our inner world is nothing other than the form world outside. Okay, so philosophically, it's very important to understand it. So this verse which we are discussing here is declaring that the sun is the source of all energy, or the energy aspect, which has met with both in the world of form outside and formless within. Okay, because sometimes it gets confusing over here. When you literally read it, the sun is life and the moon is the matter, and all that have form and that is formless is matter. So that's why I'm trying to explain it to you what formless is. Okay, because our thoughts, we really cannot put any form to it. That's why they keep on flowing. And in the yogic scriptures, the presiding deity of the mind is the moon. Sanskrit name for that is Mati. Mati is a name for the mind as well as the moon. Mati. So very correctly over here, Rishi Piplad is calling the mind also, the thoughts also, a moon. So both without and within is just a play of the sun and the moon. Because energy is given by sun and it's the moon. So all matter is the moon, all energy is the sun, and the Prajapati himself. Who created this? Prajapati. The creator, the Brahma, is expressing both in matter and energy. So the equation is solved when we look at this, like the whole creation like that, indicating that Prajapati himself, as the sun and the moon, is playing in the world as matter and energy. He himself has become everything except one thing, the Atma. Atma is different than these two. Okay? If we do a sincere meditation on it, a little deeper meditation on it, we should be able to comprehend all this. Okay, so that's why before and after studying the Upanishads, it is recommended to do some meditation. Bring your mind towards Atma. Absorb your mind into it, intellect also into the Atma. Okay? See, even in the Bhagavad Purana, we learned that Brahma, after doing the tapasya, what did he do? From his own body, he created 10 sons. Because he was told to fill this world. So those sons from his own body, nothing from outside. Okay. So now let's look at the next verse. Ath aditya udyan tat prachim disham pravishati ten prachyan pranan rashmishu sanidhate yad dakshinam yad pratichim yad utichim yad dho yad udharvam yad antraha disho yad sarvam prakashyate ten sarvan pranan rashmishu sanidhate. Ath means now. Aditya, the sun. Udyan, having risen. Yat means which? Prachim, eastern. Disham, quarter, like a direction. Pravishati, enters. Ten means by that. Prachyan, eastern. Pranan, the prans. Rashmishu, in the rays. Rashmi means rays. So in the rays. Sanidhate, holds. Yat means which? Dakshinam, southern. Yat means which? Pratichim, western. Yat which? Udichim, northern. Yat means which? Adha. Adha means below. Udharvam, above. Yat means which? Antaraha, intermediate. Disha, quarters. Yat means which. Sarvam, all. Prakashyati, illumines. Ten means by what? Sarvan, all. Pranan, the prans. Rashmishu, in the rays. Sanidhate, holds. So this is a little bit longer verse. You see that some are 2 lines, some are 4 lines. Okay. Now the sun rising goes towards the east, and he embraces with his ray all prans in the east. When he lights up the southern, the western, and the northern quarters, the above, the below, and the intermediary quarters, and the all, by that he thrills with his rays all creatures. Okay, very poetic verse, telling us what we see every day. Even before the class, we were saying that sun, how good it feels when the sun is up. And that's what Rishi Piplad is saying. Okay, a description of how the sun is really the presiding deity of the prana, vitality. The touch of this prana, it just gives the vitality to a lifeless bundle of carbon, phosphorus, nitrogen, etc. Because what is this body? This body is made out of all those chemicals. It just gets thrilled with the help of this sun. So as the sun rises in the east, how quickly we know that. It doesn't take long. Very quickly the rays, they are gathered, they spread into the whole world in all its quarters, all its directions. And it's almost like embracing the atmosphere with this warmth. And there's a very cheerful awakening in the atmosphere. So imagination, for this one, we really don't need. We have experienced. We experience it every day. From this, we can see that when the sun is rising, the darkness, it just almost flows out. It's like it rolls out, portion by portion. Okay, that's why he's just mentioning all these directions. Just slowly, it just moves out. So the emerging portion of the globe, it just basks in this sunlight. Get up into the activity. That's what this vitality is. When sun is up, what do? We want to get up. We want to do our duties. And then at night, when the sun sets, we want to roll back into the darkness. Slowly and steadily, we want to retire ourselves into the inactivity and the sleep also. That's what he's telling us. So this, with the reference to the world, we can say that the living creatures at night, when they are away from the embrace of the sun, they go into the lap of the moon. Okay. So touch of the magic wand. There has been many verses written on this in our Upanishads and the Vedas. So it's like he's painting a picture for us. This Rishi wants us to understand that it's not a baseless, convenient supposition to say that the sun is the representative of the prana and the moon is the deity of the matter. Okay, every person likes to enjoy the sunshine. Now let's look at next verse. What else he says? Because with all these verses, he's taking our mind towards that question, the creation. Sa esh Vaishvanaraho Vishwarupaha Pranoho Agnir Udhyate Tad Et Richam Yuktam. So means he, Eshaha, this, Pranaha, Pran, Vishwarupaha, universal form. Roop is the form, Vishwa is the universal. Vaishvanara, the universal life. Agni, fire. Udyat, rises. Yad means that. Etad, this. Richa. Richa is those mantras said in the Vedas, those are called the Richas. And this particular, right now he's talking about the Rig Veda. Okay, the mantra which is going to come in the next verse is from the Rig Veda. So by the Rig Veda, Abhyuktam described. He says he is the Vaishvanar, the sun, total of all living beings, assuming all forms. Pran is the fire that rises every day. This has been said in the following mantra of the Rig Veda also. However, a great Rishi may be, even Lord Krishna in Bhagavad Gita, he supported all his arguments also, and as well as the philosophy also, with the help of the Vedic mantras. That's why the Kathopanishad, mantras from the Kathopanishad, they are in Bhagavad Gita. So over here, this Rishi Prahlad is doing the same thing. That it is not my original idea. It did not come from my intellect. There is some force of authority as the declaration of this intuition. So authority is in the Vedic mantra. They say whenever there's a doubt, go look up in the Vedas. Final authority Vedas have. So that's why Rishi Prahlad says that I am going to recite a mantra over here from the Rig Veda to show that where all this knowledge is coming from, or to answer to your question, where is it coming from? You remember in the beginning I told you there are Upanishads, Brahman Upanishads, there are Mantra Upanishads. Okay, this is a Brahman Upanishad. Brahman Upanishad is where the explanation is giving. Mantra Upanishad is the one where intuitively those rishis, they saw that truth. Okay, so he says he is the Vaishvanar, the sun. And what is this Vaishvanar? The total gross body consciousness, which individually we all feel, in our waking state. When you put it all together, that is called Vaishvanar. Okay, so the total gross body in each one of us in our waking state is called Vaishvanar. It's a technical word. So in the waking state, the scriptural truth in us identifying itself with the body feels an egocentric personality, which is called Vishwa. And when the truth identifies itself with the total gross bodies of the total waking state, it's called Virat. So there's a Vishwa, my Vishwa, then there's a Virat. Sun is the Sarava Jeev Atmaka. Sarava Jeev, all the Jeevs. So Vishwaroop over here means assuming all forms, not just only the human forms, all forms. So the sun with its principle as a light, the energy, is the cause for the perception of all forms, which we see with our eyes. Because eye is the instrument for recognizing the colors and the shapes and the forms. So sun is the source of the entire light energy. To say that the sun himself assumes all forms, this is what philosophy says. Because of a sun, all this we can see because of sun, and everything has come out of the sun also, because of vitality and the energy in the sun. So touch of a sunlight, it tickles the life into activity. And wherever there's a light or life, what do we see? There's a warmth also. Coldness is the nature of the death, the language of the matter. Body warmth is the life living in us. So this has been said in the following mantra, he says, in the Rig Veda. Okay? And we'll see that in all the chapters throughout this Prashnopanishad. The mantra from the Rig Veda, they are quoted to support the statements which are given by Rishi Piplad. Whenever he's trying to give that kind of information, he says, this is not my idea. Okay, I'll give you the mantra also. So let's look at the Rig Veda mantra, that is verse number 8. Vishvarupam Harinam Jat Vedasam Prayanam Jyotirekam Tapantam Sahasra Rashmi Shatda Vartmana Pranaha Prajanam Udyayesh Surya. Vishvarup, the universal form. Harinam, full of rays. Jat Vedasam, omniscient. Prayanam, the basis of all. So that means basis of all life. Ekam, one. Jyoti, effulgent. Tapantam, who gives heat. Sahasra Rashmi, of 1,000 rays. Shatdha, in 100 ways. Vartmanaha, existing. Prajanam, of the creatures. Pranaha, life. Esha, this. Surya, the sun. Udyati, rises. He says the knowers, that means the wise people, the rishis, the yogis. The knowers understand that. What do they understand? Which is of all forms, the resplendent, fulgent, the highest goal, the one light, the heat giver to be the 1,000 rays or rayed sun, who exist in 100 forms as the life of all creatures. So he says this is from the Rig Veda. In the Rig Veda, there's a description of the rising sun, and with the sufficient suggestions to show the sun to be the nature of the creator, Prajapati. And the one who knew this idea or added it in the Rig Veda mantra had the subjective experience. Did not come from the mind or the intellect, subjective experience. That's why the knowers, the subjectively knowing Rishi, because they meditated on this for a long time with a sufficient intensity in their meditation, or even the sufficient intensity on the nature of the sun. In Yoga Sutras, Rishi Patanjali gives us this technique. The sanyam on something will make us understand that thing in its totality. So these rishis, they must have done this Sanyam. And Sanyam is what? Dharana, Dhyan and Samadhi together on one particular thing is called Sanyam. So in his macrocosm and microcosm aspects of existence and functions, they found out. So that's why very clearly it has been said in this mantra. It's not just a fantasy, it's the experience. And there is also a direct indication that sun is not the physical orb of light and energy. Okay, there's a vitality which is being expressed in the sun. Okay. So, and because of this vitality, all the activities are done by us. We can express our own life because of this sun. So as a source of all such activities, the sun is considered here as a life of all creatures. Let's look at next verse. Samvansaraho ve prajapati tasyayane dakshinam cha uttaram cha tadyeha ve tad ishtaha purte kritam utpasyate te chandramasam eva lokam abhijyante ta eva punarvartante तस्मात् एते ऋष्यः प्रजाकामः दक्षिणं प्रतिपद्यन्ते एषः वै रैरया पितृयानः. I'm sure some of these words you are already familiar with, but still let's go through them. Prajapati, Lord of the creatures. And the very first word Samvansar. Samvansar is the whole year. And we saw that word before also. Samvansar. Ve means verily. Tasya, his. Dakshinam, south. Uttaram cha, and the north. Ayane. Ayane is two paths. See, in Bhagavad Gita, there was a word Dakshinayan and Uttarayan. Ayan. Ayan means the two paths. Vartante, exist. Tat means therefore. Ye means who. Ha, why. Verily. This verily means like a well known. So this her way normally is like an idiom used again and again. Tat means that ishtaha purte, the performance of Vedic sacrifices, almost like a philanthropic works. Ishtapurtam. Kritam, work worth doing. So kritam also means like a something which with a permanent value to it. Kritam. Te means they. Chandramasam, the lunar. Lokam, the world. Abhijayante, attain or conquer. Te means they. Ev means verily. Punar vartante, return again. Tasmat, therefore. Ete, these. Rishya, the rishis. Prajakamaha, desirous of progeny. Dakshinam, the southern. Pratipadyante, go. Esha, this. Her way. Indeed. Rai, matter. Ya means which. Pitriyana, the path of the ancestors, the mains. Pitriyan. Okay. So that's why I said you are familiar with most of these words from studying other scriptures. The year is indeed Prajapati. So that means time. Because what is a year? It's a time. Lord Krishna said the same thing in Bhagavad Gita. I am the time also. And there are two paths, the southern and the northern. Those who follow the path of karma alone by the performance of sacrificial and pious acts obtain only the world of the moon, and certainly they do return. Therefore, those sages who desire offspring take the southern route. The matter, the ray, is verily the path of the forefathers. Okay, so it's a sure good deeds done, but good deeds done for certain desire. That's what he's talking about. These are the Ishta Purtam. So far we have been discussing that Creator himself has become energy and matter in the previous verses, the sun and the moon. And with the help of the sun and the moon, we calculate our time. Right? That's how its calculation has been done. So Prajapati himself is the year also. Samvatsar. So he is a prana also, he is a matter also, and he is the time also. It's almost like out of a piece of silver, if we make small rings, what are the rings then? There's nothing but silver. And if you string those rings together and make a chain out of it, what is that chain? Nothing but silver. Right? No matter what you make with that, it's nothing but original thing. The same way Prajapati becomes the sun and the moon, and we calculate our years, months, days, and naturally we got to accept this, that all these divisions and the subdivisions, they are nothing but Prajapati, the creator himself. That's where he is taking our mind to. It's almost like if you put water into 20 different shaped bottles or the pitchers, and they can have different colors also, but what is in there? Nothing but water. Some intelligent person will say that. So contents of the bottles are all nothing but H2O. Over here, contents of everything which we see is nothing but the Prajapati. So this is what this Rishi Piplad is telling this young boy. Okay, just dividing it and telling where is it all coming from, and it's nothing but that. So this is the attempt he's making to show that time is nothing but the two paths. Time has two paths, northern and the southern. It's like a two routes we can take. And they have been distinguished from each other. Northern route will take us at a different place. Southern route will take us at a different place. But the creation has been done by God. And this freedom we have, do we want to rise up or do we want to slide down? There's nothing in you to bundle up when you leave this body. It's the subtle body which goes. Subtle body releases from the gross body. And what is a subtle body? It's nothing but a pack of thoughts and ideas. And those take us to that place. If our thoughts have been to this matter, the ray, ancestors, relationships, the objects, he says, you will go towards the southern path. Pitriyan, he talks. Okay, so based on our thoughts, because we know that we are in a karam yoni, we do the actions. We can either do good actions or the bad actions. And we know what happens with the bad actions. But a person who's studying something like this, and these young Kumars who went to the Rishi, they knew the good and the bad, the difference between them. But again, the good thoughts or the good actions, they are again divided in two. Ishtam and the Purtam. Okay. So systematically, the good actions are also divided. And the actions are not just the physical actions, but the thoughts also and the words also. Remember that. So two groups. So Ishtam, sure, in the scriptures they talk about it, Ishtam. And the Purtam, those are also the noble acts. They are the kindness, charity. And they are all subsidiary to the textbook of the Dharma. Those are Purtam. So Ishtam included the Vedic rituals, self-control, truthfulness, study of the Vedas, or even disseminating this Vedic knowledge. Teaching this Vedic knowledge, serving the unexpected guests also. Continuously doing the rituals also. They call it tending the sacred fire, like a Agnihotra, Yagyas. And Purtam, what are the Purtam? They include any kind of a social service you do. In old times, people used to make wells in the villages for people to use water. Bathing ghats, they used to maintain. Construction of the temples, feeding the poor, opening the roads, the parks, making the dharamshala. Dharamshala used to be in every town, there used to be a dharamshala. Anybody can come and stay there. And watersheds also. So those are called Purat. So Ishtam and Purtam. But if you analyze this classification and understand from the level of the mental condition of a devotee, if you're doing it for your own name and fame or some kind of a material reward, this Rishi is saying that you will come back here. Because those thoughts, those impressions, they'll go with you in the mind and it will bring you back. Okay, so those who perform the Purtam, they will go in a different route. Predominantly Purtam and predominantly Ishtam, they'll take them to the different place. Okay, so this is what, and he's going to continue with this in the next verse also. So, and in Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna used the Pitrilok and he used the word Devyan and Pitriyan. Right? If you remember that. So Nadar and the southern path. Basically, what he's telling us, as we think, so we become. He's not saying don't do good deeds, but make sure in your mind you are detached from the result. Do it as a Karam Yogi. So good to feed people, good to help others, good to think about others also, but don't think that we'll get a reward for it. Don't keep your mind stuck with the reward. That's what he's telling us. Okay, so we need to transcend this physical body, mind, intellect by living sincerely a life of a yogi, a renunciate, detachment, purity, meditation. Only then we can experience the glory of the Spirit. That's what he's taking us to. So he's not saying don't help others. Definitely help others, but in your mind, you should not even know that you helped somebody. The The wise people, they say, if you're helping somebody with your right hand, or if you're giving something to somebody with your right hand, even your left hand shouldn't even know. That means just do it and forget about it. It should become your nature. Okay, because if you remember it, where is it being remembered? In our thoughts. And then those thoughts, even the superficial thoughts, ultimately, if we don't pay attention to it, they go deeper into it in our psyche. They become vasanas. And those vasanas, those impressions are the one which will create our future births. So as you think, so you become. Our life is our own responsibility to make it or to mar. And this Vedic knowledge is taking us towards godhood. Because only human beings have this great privilege. Why? While performing our basic duties, our own responsibilities, but if you have this kind of a philosophy in our mind, we can become one with God in this lifetime. This is what this great Rishi is telling these young disciples. So let's stop it here. And there's a lot to meditate upon, seriously meditate upon. So, but we'll start our class with verse number 10 next week. Om Purnamada Purnam Idam Purnat Purnam Udachyate Purnasya Purnam Adaya Purnameva Visheshyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Thank you very much for coming.